Hello, and welcome to our overview of the PivotGrids and insights into data. The following video will take you through some of the basic features of the PivotGrid and how you might use it to explore your data in ways you might not have imagined. From the grid, you can launch the PivotGrid at any time by clicking on the Show PivotGrid button in the ribbon bar. You should also note the Add Rec Counter checkbox. If this is checked, then the program will automatically add a new field to the grid called ZZRecno, if it is not already there. This field can be used as a way to count records in the PivotGrid, allowing you to create pivots around how many records might exist in a category. Now you can see the PivotGrid, with the field list at the top, the pivot area in the middle, and the charting area at the bottom. Let's drag the ZZRecno field down in the numeric pivot area, in the upper left corner of the middle portion of the screen. It should say Drop Data Items here. Note that once you do this, it shows you the total of records in the pivot and draws a small pie chart at the bottom of the screen. Now we will drag the region field down and place it in the row fields area, below the data item area. Notice how it automatically updates the pivot data area and the chart at the bottom of the screen. You can see the data is now broken down by sales regions around the world. To further break down the regions, let's drag the country field down to the same area, just to the right of the region field. Immediately, you can see the data further broken down by country under the appropriate region. You can now update the pie chart simply by highlighting different cells in the PivotGrid data area. We will do this easily by clicking on first the British Isles region header and then on the North American region header. Note that it will automatically select the proper rows in the data area and update the chart at the bottom. Let's break this data down further by city. So now we have breakdowns by region, country, and city. We now see a breakdown of the over 600,000 orders by each category and their totals. So now that you have seen how easy it is to create simple breakdowns, let's make this a little more interesting by introducing another dimension to the breakdowns. Let's use the category name field. We will place this field at the top in the column fields area to the right of the data field. Notice the data in the pivot data area is now broken down into new columns, one for each category name. Now you can see the number of orders for each category, broken down by city, country, and region. We can now click on any of the row or column headers to update the chart at the bottom with the appropriate information. It is a very quick way of seeing visually how your data breaks down. Notice that it will create separate pie charts for each category at the top. Let's try selecting different rows and columns, as well as ranges, to see how this will affect the chart at the bottom of the screen. Now let's put the shipper name field by the category name field. Notice how it increases the column breakdowns, just like the country and city did for the rows. We can select the beverages header and see what it does to the selected rows and columns, as well as what it does to the chart at the bottom. One really interesting feature of the PivotGrid is its ability to filter the data in the grid by any of the fields. For example, we will now filter the grid data by the product name field. It is not even part of the pivot fields, but we can still use it to filter. You filter by clicking the small filter icon in the upper right-hand corner of the field. In our example here, we will filter by Boston Crab and Chai. Notice how it affects the PivotGrid data. You can see the filter criteria displayed at the bottom of the PivotGrid. Now let's clear the filter. There will be times when you have many fields available to the grid. They do take up vertical space. So InSights has the ability to show and hide these fields. You can also print the PivotGrid. It is a system-level printing, not a customizable report writer like what is available for the results grid. Like the result grid, the PivotGrid can be exported to the built-in spreadsheet. And like the grid, it keeps all the formatting. You can see the results shown in the video. You can also save and load the layout of the PivotGrid to the query, so that you can easily continue working with your data as you had been. The final part we will cover of the PivotGrid is that of the chart. Like just about every other chart in Insights into Data, it is very easy to work with and customize. Let's change from the pie charts to some bar charts. You can see the wide variety of chart styles that are available to you just by pointing and clicking. It is also possible to use a chart designer that will open up hundreds of properties and options for you to be able to customize the chart. You have the ability to both print preview and print directly the contents of the chart window. Finally, InSights provides the ability to export the chart to a wide range of file formats. When you are done using the pivot grid, you can close it by clicking the small blue button with a minus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Thank you for watching our video on the pivot grids and insights into data.